Hey everyone, Saul from Two Kingdoms Games here. Coming to you today with some more Modern Horizons spoilers. Now this is part 2. Part 1 can be found in the description below. First up we have the Ranger Captain of Eos. He is a 3 CMC, 3/3 human soldier. When he enters the battlefield you get to search your library for a creature with 1 CMC or less and put it into your hand. His other effect is that you get to sack him, and when you sack him, your opponents can't cast non-creature spells till the end of this turn. I think this is actually a really strong card. Now, this could be a potential combo win con for Soul Sisters because you combine this with Sun Titan, who lets you, whenever he enters or attacks, get a 3 CMC back. Means you can get your Knight Captain back. You can keep sacking your Knight Captain so they can't use non-creature spells to remove your stuff. And so on and so forth. You can kind of lock out people that way. Now, this is kind of a mediocre strategy, but it's a possible way to use him. And overall, 3 for a 3/3 that then lets you tutor out potentially a Soul Sister or the Giver of Runes, which I'll be covering in a second, or anything like that, is not bad overall. Next up, Giver of Runes, which I just mentioned, is 1 CMC, 1/2 Core Cleric. You can tap her to give another creature you control protection from colorless or a color of your choice. This is pretty good overall. Now, it's not quite Mother of Runes, which is the predecessor to this. This is a functional reprint of Mother of Runes. They've just replaced the, you can target another only. Mother of Runes can target herself, so not bad, but it does give you extension to protection from colorless. So overall, I think this is an okay card. I could see it seeing play in certain decks for sure. Now, we have the card that I think is the most bonkers thing I've seen in a while, and that is Ursa Lord High Artificer. It's a 4 CMC, 1/4 human artificer. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 0/0 construct that gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. Or sorry, each artifact you control. Not a creature. Has nothing to do with creatures. You can tap another artifact. So just tap an untapped artifact, you produce 1 blue mana, and you can pay 5, shuffle your library, exile the top card of your library. You can cast it till end of turn without paying its mana cost. This is insane. We did not need another mono blue artifact commander. I don't know if it's going to see play in a modern deck. Maybe it will. If it does, I have no idea which deck it will go into. Maybe Word Control or something, since it will let you dig through your deck a bit, and you do use a fair amount of artifacts that you can just tap arbitrarily at that point. I combine this with Paradox Engine in Commander, and it's going to be busted. My only issue with it is going to be a super linear deck, and it's going to get boring to play for after a while. Yes, you will win with this deck. I am not questioning this fact, but it's just going to be the most linear thing you have ever played. Next up, we have Goblin Engineer. It's a 2 CMC, 1/2 Goblin Artificer. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for an artifact and put it into your graveyard. You can pay 1 red and tap it to switch, pay 1 red, tap it, sack an artifact, and return an artifact with 3 CMC or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So under the worst case scenario, it is 1 mana and it gets you to essentially flicker your Ichor Wellsprings and other things like that each turn through your graveyard and draw cards. Or it's now pulling back combo pieces and things that may have been destroyed earlier by people. So right there, I think this is huge. I'm going to be playing this in Duretti because mono red artifacts, it needs another tutor. So much needed card. I think this is a great card overall. Next up we have Planebound Accomplice, 3 CMC, pay 1 red. You can put a Planeswalker from your hand onto the battlefield. At end of turn it sacks. I don't get this card. I don't like it. I'm sure there's probably a reason for it, but very few Planeswalkers I can see have a big enough impact that come out, flick one thing, and then lose it is worth it. Because, yeah, I don't get why this card even exists. Anyways, onward. Next up we have another Sliver Lord. That's what we needed. The first Sliver, it is a 7/7 for Wooburg, so one of each color mana. It cascades, and Sliver spells you cast, only you cast, gain Cascade. Yeah, we really needed to give Slivers more ammunition. But seriously, solid commander. This is going to be probably the Sliver commander unless you use Morphon, which I talked about in the last video, because Morphon, you're just going to go, cool, I'm going to cast this Sliver Lord for free, I'm going to cast this Sliver Lord for free, I'm going to cast this Sliver, and so on and so forth, as you can get what I'm saying. Plus, just the reduction off of Morphon will make Slivers cast for really cheap. But I think the first Sliver is the one I would choose personally for flavor, because ultimately, if you're playing a deck that runs heavily around a specific creature type, I think you should use a commander of that creature type, not a generic changeling that can fit into any commander type. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just me. I just think that leaning more into the theme is important for the deck at that point. Next up, we have Collected Conjuring. It's a 4 CMC sorcery. You exile the top 6 cards of your library. You choose 2 sorceries with CMC 3 or less from among them and get to cast them without paying their mana cost. I like the card. You're going to have to build very heavily for this deck, but in the current meta that is Modern, I could see this working decently. The only problem is a lot of the decks that run heavily sorceries that are in Izzet colors don't want to exile a big chunk of their deck, because you are exiling 10% of your deck hoping to hit the 2 things for this card. Next up, we have Scrapyard Recombiner. It's a 3 CMC construct that's a 0/0, but it has modular 2, so it comes in with 2+1/+1 counters. Modular, so if it dies, it moves its counters around to other things. You can tap, sack another artifact, search your library for a construct, and put it into your hand. So, not bad. It lets you go search out your pieces. Now, if KCI was still in, this would be busted, because it lets you go dig more. But since KCI is out, and I don't know a lot of decks that run constructs other than, your Hardened Scales and your affinities, I don't know where this is going to find a home, but I think it is a really strong and playable card. Now, they did show the rest of the, as I'm calling them, Canopy lands, which are the lands that are like Horizon Canopy. I showed 2 of them in the last video. They finished the enemy cycle. So we're getting at least the enemy cycle of Canopy lands. I didn't feel the need to show them because you get what they do. They tap for mana, you pay life to do it, or you pay 1 mana, tap it, sack it, draw a card. Good cards overall, can fit into a lot of decks, so I don't see why you want to play with these. The card, though, that interests me the most, Prismatic Vista. So you can pay 1 life, tap it, sack, search your library for a basic land, and put it into play untapped. Now, this is huge because this is the first fetch land that lets you go get wastes and put them into play untapped. Now, I know there's not a ton of decks that rely heavily on wastes, but for any kind of Eldrazi Stompy deck, this could work really well because it guarantees you will have that colorless you need to tap for your creatures. Otherwise, overall, this is not a bad card. It can fit into a lot of decks. It's kind of a catch-all for people who don't have the shock lands or anything like that, who don't need necessarily the big fetches, but will still fit into any deck that uses the big fetches and is still good. So, there you have it. That's what I have for the spoilers for today. So far, Modern Horizons is setting up to be a bonker set. I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have on Modern or how it's going to change Modern, but let me know what you think. Do any of these cards that have been spoiled so far look like they're Modern warping cards to you? Comment below. I read all the comments. Maybe I'll get into a dialogue with some of you. Anyways, as always, you can follow us on all major social media. That's in the description box below. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Easy way to support us in everything we do. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to hit the little notification icon, the bell in the corner there, so you don't miss any content as it comes out. As always, I'll see you next time.